Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be talking about the books that I'm planning to read for the Reading Rush. So this is a very popular readathon. It goes for a week next week, and there are 7 challenges. They used to say you needed to read 7 books, but that's not technically a requirement anymore. But I am going to try to read 7 books, but I also found a magical book that will cover all 7 challenges. So I could potentially get away with just reading that one book. So let's get into the challenges. When I get to the challenge, which is specifically for the book that can cover all the prompts, I'll let you know. First prompt is to read a book that matches the color of your birthstone. So I was born in April, which makes my birthstone a diamond. Now, what color is a diamond really? I would argue that the color of a diamond is sparkles. So I'm going to read Bee and Puppycat Volume 2 because it does have a bunch of white, which I guess you could also argue diamonds are white, but it also has this sparkly section here, which I think looks more like a diamond than any other book that I own. Not that I own this. A lot of these books are library books. Yay, libraries. So it's been a little while since I read Volume 1, but Bee and Puppycat is just a ridiculously cute and adorable graphic novel about this girl that goes on like magical missions as her job, and she has this puppy cat that helps her along the way. As is always best for really short readathons, this is a really short book. Then the second prompt is to read a book that starts with the word the. For that I have The Tea Dragon Festival by Katie O'Neill. This is another really popular graphic series with adorable art. I can't really flick through this one. Anyway, it's super cute. I've read The Tea Dragon Society, and even though it only took me 20 minutes to read, it was really cute. This one does seem a little bit longer, but I still imagine I can read it within an hour. Oh, and it's so cute. It's basically about these dragons that have like tea leaves growing on them, and people make tea from them. And I guess in this one, there's a festival. Then the next prompt is to read a book that inspired a movie that you've already seen. Now, this is the one that I actually struggled with for the longest time. And then I realized that I already had 2 books on my July TBR that filled this prompt. So I don't know why it took me so long to realize that. But specifically, I'm going to count Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones for this, because I watched the movie of this, I think around Christmas time actually. It feels more recent than that, but I'm pretty sure it was Christmas time. Time is doing funny things lately. But so this is a story about a girl named Sophie who gets cursed into being an old lady, and so then she goes and stays with this wizard Howl and becomes his housekeeper and gets involved in some wizard shenanigans. I will say, like, even though this is pretty short, it's only 200 pages, but the text is tiny. So I don't think it's as short as this particular edition makes it seem, but we'll see how we go. Then the next prompt is to read the first book you touch. Now, I'm going to interpret this in 2 ways. I'm going to interpret it in one way for the book that covers all the challenges, but a different way of thinking about the prompt is the book that was published the earliest, because I'm pretty sure in my entire life I have touched this book a long time ago, and so in terms of my entire life, this is the first book that I touched of the books that I want to read. Make sense? Anyway, it is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Also, this fits the prompt of a movie that I've already seen, I'm pretty sure, but I watched it when I was really young, so I'm not really sure whether it was real or not, or whether I watched the whole movie. It was a long time ago when I was a tiny girl. Anyway, I did love it. It's about this girl who is quite rich, and her father has gone away to war, I think. Then he dies, she ends up orphaned, and she has to kind of give up all her privilege and live with the servants. As I said, it's been a while since I watched the movie, and I never bother reading synopses on the back because I'm lazy. But this is a classic, and I'm quite excited to read it, and hopefully I'll love it. And maybe I'll even track down the old movie that I think I watched. Then the next prompt is to read a book completely outside your house. Now, they are suggesting to people that they make sure they do this in a way that's safe, given the current state of the world. Luckily in New Zealand things are pretty normal at the moment, so I can go outside, although it is winter here, which is going to make it harder for me because if it's raining all week, reading outside ain't gonna be fun. But the book that I have for this is The Girl from the Other Side, Volume 2. It's been a little while since I read Volume 1, so I want to get back into it. We're basically following this cute little girl who is being looked after by this scary demon guy, and you're slowly finding out what's happened to all the other people. This is like a manga style book, so it's, again, should be a quick read. So if I get desperate, I'll just go and sit out in my car while I read it, because it shouldn't take long. My car counts as outside, right? Like it's inside my car, but outside my house. And the prompt does say outside of your house. Okay, I'm going to skip the next prompt for reasons, but let's talk about the last prompt is to read a book that takes place on a different continent than where you live. Now, I live in New Zealand, so that's really easy for me. Because, I mean, technically I don't even live on a continent. You can count it as Oceania, but the actual continent is Australia. The rest of us are just random little islands. Anyway, for this, I am going to pick up the fourth volume of... The fourth volume? Yes, the fourth volume of Full Metal Alchemist. This is a story about these two brothers who are alchemists, but at some point they attempted to bring their mother back to life, and as a result, one of them lost his arm and his leg, and the other one has his soul stuck inside this suit of armor, and they're going around trying to fix themselves. Now, there were parts of the first 3 volumes that I liked, but overall I wasn't in love with the series, so I'm going to continue it and we'll see if I can fall in love with it as much as a lot of other people have. Then, the last prompt is the one where I have a book that fits all the prompts. So the prompt is read a book in a genre you've always wanted to read more of. Now for this, the genre I've picked is science fiction. And you might say, Penny, you already read a fair amount of science fiction. And I think I read a bit of science fiction, but I would like to read a lot more. Goodreads recently put up like their top 100 lists of science fiction and fantasy, and when I went through the fantasy list I had read a significant number of them, but when I went through the science fiction list I'd read hardly any, and I do really like science fiction, so I'd like to read more of it. Also, this month I am kind of doing the Tome Infinity Readathon, which means I need to read more science fiction to try and tick off more of the prompts for that. So if I can fit another science fiction in, that will help with that. So the book that I managed to find is The 100 by Cass Morgan. I got this from my library. Shout out to libraries again. So this is a science fiction where people went to space after there was some kind of nuclear problem on Earth that made the world uninhabitable. So they've been in this space station for a while and they've started to think that maybe Earth is habitable again. So they decide to send these 100 kids that have been imprisoned for different reasons down to the Earth to see whether they can survive. So this is white, which is the color of a diamond, kind of the color of my birthstone. It also starts with the word the. There is also a TV show based on this, not a movie, but I think it still counts, and I watched about the first 2 and a bit seasons of that, and then it disappeared from all the New Zealand networks, so I haven't managed to continue it yet. But I do think it's back on New Zealand Netflix now, so I really would love to watch some more of it. I will make sure that in the week of the readathon, this is the first book that I touch. I guess I will have to make sure that I read this completely outside my house. That's probably going to be the hardest prompt to fulfill with this book, but I can do it. As I said already, it's a science fiction. I want to read more science fiction. And when they come down to Earth, pretty sure they come down in like North America, because of course, where else would you come down in the world? It's not like there's any other big continents around. Anyway, as I already stated, I live in New Zealand, so that's the easiest prompt for me. So huzzah for the magical 1 book to complete all the prompts. 1 ring to rule them all. Oh, I choked on the cheesiness of that. So these are the books that I'm going to be reading for the Reading Rush. I'll probably try to get through some of the shorter ones and then pick up the 100 and then maybe get to some of the ones that are a little bit longer. But overall, I think this is probably pretty doable in a week as long as nothing else crazy happens that week. Which, with the way the world is now, we can never really predict if crazy things might happen. at any time. Anyway, do let me know if you're going to be doing the Reading Rush and how ambitious you're being with your reading plans for it. Or let me know if you've read any of the books I'm going to be reading and whether you think I'm going to enjoy them. Otherwise, I hope that you're doing well and reading lots of good books, and I will see you next time.